Increasingly, we're finding the opportunity to automate some of the activities that we would otherwise have to do manually. Many of these automations exist within Microsoft documents. They are otherwise known as code. VBA code, in the case of Microsoft Excel, for example, is pretty common in automating tasks. If you receive via email or link via a website to a downloadable add-in or Microsoft macro-enabled workbook, and download that item, you may have some immediately apparent difficulties with opening that file for functionality because your computer or the instant recognition of the file as being from a foreign source might raise some red flags within your software, and it won't be able to function unless you overcome some of those barriers. And we can go over how to get over these barriers here. For example, if I go to the DE login and I'm interested in downloading the latest version of the JOM Assist tool, this is a macro-enabled workbook. Click on that link, and I will download this. This is not something that I would want to try to have function within a browser. So I've downloaded it into my downloads folder. I'll go to my downloads folder, and maybe I'll put it onto my desktop. Now, if I want to try to open this file directly, because it came from technically a website that, even though I might have some involvement in, Microsoft won't know that. So here I am opening up this workbook. It will load various features, but at the top it says security risk. Okay, I'm not going to say learn more. I'm not going to shut that out. This will prevent the tool from working. So I'm going to just close down Excel and take one possible path for unblocking reliable material that's been shared with me by somebody who I know. The first thing I always want to check is to make sure that the file is not being blocked by my computer and set of applications as a whole. This is easy enough on a Windows device, although you can also find a path for doing this on a Mac. Macs aren't great with macros and code to begin with, so maybe kind of a different issue, but you can also find unblocking options on Macs. In the Windows environment, you right-click and look at Properties. Properties will show you that the file is read-only or not. In this instance, it is not read-only. That's good. I don't want that checked. If you happen to see that a file has a read-only specification, you have to unselect read-only. You don't want to read only this document. You actually want to interact with it, allow its macros to run. So that's a first step. I don't have to do that in this case, so it's not checked. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that this option that says unblock is checked. You don't want to block this functionality from being available to you. So unblocking would be the correct choice. This configuration is ideal. Now, sometimes you have to read only, unselect that read only option first and close down Properties or move the file to a different folder. Then you have the opportunity to unblock. It can be a two-step maneuver, but eventually you want to be in a place where it is not being blocked and it is not read-only. So again, don't select read-only and make sure that unblock is selected if that is an option. I'm going to hit OK. Now I'll try to open the file. And I'll see if the blocking or the risk warnings remain. In this instance, I don't have a risk warning. All I have is the fact that I have this document on my desktop. It's not on Google Drive, or I wouldn't be able to use it very well there either. But it's not in a Dropbox folder, for example, which would be a backup option, or a cloud drive, a OneDrive, for example. That would be just fine too. But it's on my desktop, and I'm just getting a standard warning. Hey, be careful. If the computer crashes, you might lose this item. Okay, fine. That's not really a concern, as long as I didn't see a red bar. If I see a yellow bar that says enable macros or enable functionality, I want to say yes, please, because I do want to make sure that those functions are enabled. The other place you can go, and You only go here if nothing else is working for you, for allowing macros to run, either an add-in or a macro-enabled workbook. You go to the Trust Center. Trust Center settings allow you to specify things like what kind of content or file block settings are active on your computer with Microsoft Excel and Microsoft applications in general. Notice that none of these types of files in my file block settings are checked. Well, that's fine. I want to be able to trust macro-enabled workbooks add-ins that I receive from reliable sources. Okay, I mean that's a qualifier. I want to make sure that the source is reliable, but if they are, then I want to be able to use that automation. Other items that I might look for if I'm encountering more difficulty are the add-in section. This is not an add-in, so it doesn't really apply, but if you want to use someone's add-in they've shared with you, you'd want to make sure that you have not selected disable. You want to make sure that enable is selected for ActiveX settings. In some cases, you have ActiveX controls embedded within an add-ins, user forms, or the Microsoft spreadsheet environment. So that final enable all controls would be appropriate. Do not select safe mode, because that will start disabling things. You want to, under macro settings, enable VBA macros, enable Excel 4.0 macros, trust access to the VBA object model. That, again, is code related. Protected view, no, you don't want to enable protected view. Again, these are all barriers. Some of these things just should not be selected because they create additional barriers to functionality being available. Again, just make sure you trust who you're getting things from. And again, I've already showed you the file block settings. External content might be useful. Enable, 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 and don't always block. But these are pretty unlikely cases that you'd ever encounter such files unless you were doing a lot of data querying. All right, I think that covers the bases. If taking all these steps, removing blocks, enabling functionality, making sure that the file isn't inherently being blocked, making sure that it is not read-only. If these are not doing the trick, then you have to talk to your IT people, because there must be something else going on that is not standard, that is maybe a higher level, an additional firewall that they put in place. But that'd be pretty annoying, frankly. So I think that there is a case to be made that if they want you to make use of useful automations, they've got to give you some breaks. So and then that's a conversation you can have. And if I'm available, I'm happy to be on that conversation as well. Okay, that should do it for ensuring access to this kind of content.